Guys, welcome Tim Jensen. He's the co-owner of Grunt Style Clothing and retired Marine, correct?
Not retired, just an old salt.
All right. Love it. Love it. I've heard you guys are never ex-Marines or nobody's ever an ex-SEAL or anything like that, right? It's
Yeah,
retired or yeah.
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 Once you've been indoctrinated into the cult of the Marine Corps, it's hard to ever leave.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, Tim, tell us a little bit about who you are. Who is Tim Jensen?
Sure, sure. So, hi everybody. My name is Tim Jensen. I'm a chief brand officer at Grunt Style, also the co-owner. I've been with the company going on 10 or plus 10 years now. So it's been a long and adventurous journey. But it's quite the pleasure to be where I am on this path. But as I think back of where I came from and to where I've gotten, it's quite an adventure. I started out in the Marine Corps in 1997. From there, I was an Amtracker in the fleet of the United States Marine Corps, and I hated garrison life. Absolutely hated it. It was not my jam. It was like bust rust, go to the field, come back, bust rust, go to the field, come back, go bust rust. It was monotonous and was not fun. And I got on in April 2001. But that in 2001, went back to Chicago. September 11th happened, and found myself being drawn back into the Marine Corps and deployed with them in 2004, 2005. With a unit called the 2nd Battalion, 24th Marines Weapons Company. And we did some really great stuff in Iraq during that time period. We were deployed to the Triangle of Death and
Wow.
made a little bit of a name for ourselves. We're one of the first Marine battalions since Vietnam to be given a name by the enemy. And
Wow.
they started calling us the Mad Ghosts because we would appear out of nowhere and destroy the enemy and disappear just as fast. So it was kind of cool. And so I had a great time doing that, and ended my career in 2005 when I came back from that deployment. Wanted to do more, but the next deployment we were going on was fob security, and again, not my jam.
What
so
what is fob security?
so imagine, if you will, going to a forward deployed area and sitting as a gate guard or a tower guard for 7 months and
Oh,
not having the opportunity of going out and doing real combat patrolling, real work, and just getting stuck on
mhm.
a fob and providing security. Not my
Okay.
thing. So I ended up not wanting to do that and, ended my time. And I was a union construction worker in Chicago during that time period, and came back to my son. I had a son that was born while I was away, so
Oh,
that
cool.
was extraordinarily difficult.
Being away from him.
Yeah, well, that wasn't difficult being away from him, right? Because I didn't
Okay.
really have that relationship. I know I
Yeah.
had a son. I met him once before I got to before I deployed, and when I came back, he was a year old. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
And now I'm being asked. Well, my new responsibility was being a father, and that was tough coming from a very difficult deployment. We
Right.
lost a lot of Marines. We were involved in some very heavy combat, and coming to from a destroyer mentality into a nurturing mentality, it was a
Hmm.
bit difficult for me and led me down some very dark roads, which ultimately had a very big impact on my life in a very negative way.
Hmm.
uh, and it was a tough period of time, and then lost a lot of bit of everything during that time period. And then I got myself back in the saddle, and found some employment. Well, I went to college. I quit my job,
Okay.
went to college, graduated college with a bachelor's degree in
What was your degree in?
game theory and design. So the art and ideas of making games.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Never got to use it. it's but
I've heard that's pretty common of most college degrees.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, but I tinker around with it in my off time at home, and I've got a
That's
couple games
cool.
that I work on, and it's been fun. Then
What,
so from there, I had a comic book company of my own for a
okay.
period of time, published some comic books, and made some notoriety there, and it was featured in C2E2 and Wizard World Chicago several times. But that wasn't paying the bills, and my new wife at the time, was like, "Tim, you gotta get a job. You gotta make some money." I'm like, "Well, I got a
Yeah.
job, I got a business," but she's like, "It doesn't make money."
Yeah.
Had to move on from that. And that's where I found Grunt Style, and applied with them and started out folding t-shirts with that company, the lowest job in the business, and from there went on to really hold every position inside the business.
Hmm.
Uh, and now it became a co-owner in 2017, and now I'm the chief brand
Congrats.
officer. So run everything, all brand related items,
Hmm.
driving that in the business. I also sit as the president of the Grunt Style Foundation. That's our 501(c)(3) effort
Okay.
that we put forward into the veteran community, and veteran and active duty community rather. And I'm just extraordinarily blessed to have this opportunity to contribute back into the community that is giving so much to me,
Hmm.
uh, and really be surrounded by incredible people on an incredible team.
Yeah.
They're all marching towards an objective of providing a better outcome for our veterans, and to
Hmm.
know, celebrate, defend the Constitution of the United States for the next generation. And that's what we do at Grunt Style.
That's awesome. So explain this 501(c)(3) to us a little bit more. It's Grunt, what was the name of it
The
again?
Grunt Style Foundation.
Grunt Style Foundation. Okay.
Yeah, so you can go to gruntstylefoundation.org. That's where we conduct our business. But we really formed ourselves out of this need within our community that falls into four buckets. Obviously there are far more problems within the veteran and active duty military community, but what we've identified are some areas that we have solutions for, and we're building programs and really driving some change. And
Hmm.
that really comes into mental health and wellness, food insecurities, veteran transition and sustainment, and then veteran homelessness. Now, you can't address veteran homelessness until you get further up the stream. There's incredible organizations out there that are helping veterans on the streets and doing all those things. Like, that's their job. That's what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
What we're looking to do is augment them and provide those fine facilities that are doing that work and providing a better backstop for them. And we're doing work there. But we also understand, like, the veteran has a very short window of time from their exit of active military service before they find themselves on the street.
Yeah.
So finding transition and sustainment opportunities for the veteran is absolutely important for us. And we have a lot of great partners like Warrior Rising, which is a great group that identifies veterans and active duty members that are wanting to start businesses and
Hmm.
funds them. Our food insecurity programs are extraordinarily important to us. We just came off of a big deployment in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where we delivered to 700 families 31 tons of food and commodities. Right?
Wow.
Let me repeat that, because
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. We delivered 31 tons of food and commodities. And the reason why I say that is ridiculous is, why is a private 501(c)(3) having to bring food to active duty military? Well, one in three, it's anywhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 6 families in the military right now are on some sort of food stamps and federal assistance, which is,
Really?
it's
Even being in
abhorrent.
the military.
Yes, absolutely. It's abhorrent. Now, here's some more startling fact. The average household income of a military family member, military family of 4 members or more, is about $48,000 to $50,000 a year. The gross, median income on the national level is between 68 and 75,000. So
Mm.
these families are already starting off in on the wrong foot, and under incredible financial burden,
Yep.
right? Trying to support families with a significant other that's constantly in the field or being deployed in a high
Yeah.
tempo military that we
Serving
find
their
ourselves in.
country,
Right.
no less.
So what we have is military members that are more focused on putting food on the table for their family than they are putting rounds on target and training to kill the enemy of our country.
Yeah.
And that's the cold hard facts, right?
Hmm.
But then we have our mental health and wellness area, where we are focused on suicide prevention. We have some great programs that we are pushing out through this aspect.
Hmm.
We have a great partnership that we have that is budding even further with the Reverend Warriors, a 501(c)(3) group out of California that delivers silky hikes to cities across the United States, with the intent of bringing veterans together through camaraderie and laughter to heal
Mm,
from the combat injuries, both moral, internal, external injuries.
yeah.
We found that veterans that heal together thrive together, right? So creating these
Hmm.
environments where veterans can get together and do something that is reminiscence of their time in the military.
Yeah.
That's going on long forced hikes. So
That's
that's kind of
awesome.
fun. But we're great partners with the Irreverent Warriors there. And we have been involved in legislation. Grunt Style Foundation was a stakeholder in the passage of the PACT Act last year, which was the largest piece of
Mm.
veteran legislation in the last century,
What
hands
was
down.
that legislation about?
So the Honoring Our Pact Act was the bill that brought 22 presumptions forward for individuals that have been suffering from these identified cancers, predominant within the global war and terrorism veterans. Not only did we capture 3.5 million veterans from the GWAT area, we were able to pick up Vietnam veterans that have been overlooked from Agent Orange and the other agent,
Really?
right? And here's something that a lot of people don't really know. There was a lot of chemicals used in the Vietnam period.
Hmm.
Agent Orange just happens to be the most known. There was
Right.
Agent Blues, there were Agent Black, Agent Grays, like all these different agents that were used to defoliate the jungles there in Vietnam. Are still killing people today. So we wrap them up. We got
Gosh.
the people in the Achilles Atoll that have been suffering from radiation exposure from nuclear testing back in the 50s and 60s. So we tried to capture as many people as we could with the passage with that piece of legislation, with the
Hmm.
attempt and understanding of saying, hey, our warfighters, we raise our hand. We know what we're getting ourselves into. We're not claiming to be victims, but we are claiming to say that we demand a health care when we come home, and we shouldn't be dying from the things that we were exposed to while serving our country,
Right.
10, 15 years after the fact that we've gotten out. So that's what we delivered with the PACT Act. Now, is it
Wow.
perfect? Absolutely not. There's a lot that could be done to improve that bill,
Mhm.
but it is a extraordinary piece of legislation that I've been just so honored to be a part of that movement.
Yeah.
That's one aspect. Right now, we are currently involved in lobbying for psychedelics.
Mm,
16 states across the United States right now for
really?
veteran access, right? And giving the veterans the ability to have access to these psychedelics because they are showing that they have an immediate response to these forms of therapies. And it is stopping the suicide ideation immediately. Now, this is not a modality of treatment for everybody,
No.
but it is a modality for treatment for individuals that are in complete despair, have no future, that
Hmm.
they think they have no future, and are suffering from suicide ideations. Like this medicine can stop the epidemic of suicides that's happening within our veteran
Wow.
community right now. So we're
Which
involved in a lot of things
psychedelics?
there.
Which psychedelics are these? Because I've heard of this before. Psilocybin and ayahuasca and
Mhm.
these sorts of psychedelics that are helping people kind of reset their minds.
Yeah,
Are those
absolutely.
the ones, or are there others as well?
Yeah, there's a lot here, right? There are a lot of obviously the biggest ones that are gaining the attention on a national level is
Hmm.
ayahuasca and psilocybin, right?
Yeah.
Traditionally known as the magic mushroom, and there are undergrounds that are happening across the United States that are delivering these modalities of treatment
Hmm.
that are often being driven by special forces, Army Rangers, and Green Berets, and
Really?
all these different individuals because we understand what these modalities can bring in forms of
Hmm.
treatment, and we're not waiting for the VA to deliver them any longer. So we're going to do it ourselves. Now, the other types of medicine, to answer your question,
Hmm.
that we're looking at and trying to fight for is bufo, right? Bufo is a form of
Hmm.
DMT, right? That is the venom from the toad specific to New Mexico, right? So you
Really? I haven't
that
heard of
venom,
this.
yeah, you extract the venom, you let the venom dry, and then you put it into a smokable container of some sort, and you take the DMT in that way. We are also advocating for ibogaine, which is a plant from iboga, rather.
Hmm.
Well, let me rephrase: iboga and ibogaine. Ibogaine is a synthetic derivative of iboga, which is the plant-based, um,
Okay.
which is an extraordinarily powerful psychedelic, which has been used to break people of heroin addictions and
Really?
bigger drug addictions that they're suffering,
Yeah.
alcoholism, right? These big problems. So and then there's ketamine. Ketamine is
Mhm.
becoming far more accessible right now than any of these other type of modalities. Here in Texas, it's legal, and you can go to clinics and get these types of
Mhm.
treatments. And that's what we're trying to provide is the access, right? The way I say it is mushrooms for the masses, ayahuasca for the brave. And I've been on both of those journeys, and I've healed myself in many respects from the things I've been suffering with for the past 18
Fascinating.
years. And
Yeah.
it's saved. I've seen it save people.
Mhm.
This is you know we sit here and we talk about veteran suicide, and when a veteran commits suicide, we all get upset, and we all will start beating the drum, and then it will dull down until the next suicide. Well,
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen, we have a modality in front of us right now, psychedelics, that we can put um, a good process in place that we can get
Mhm.
these veterans access to this, and we can put a stop to veteran suicide today, like now.
Mhm.
Like the FDA came through last year and with two studies, and they have labeled psilocybin, the magic mushroom, as breakthrough therapy
Wow.
for heavy depression, anxiety, TBI,
Mhm.
PTSD, and these types of illnesses. So what are we messing around with? Like, I'm tired of watching my friends die.
Yeah.
Let's get them the
Just get it
medicine.
passed.
Yeah.
Get it to them. It blows me away how the FDA will approve things like McDonald's really quick, and then, stuff like this, it takes forever to get passed through to, we're
That's
eating
all.
crap. Why not just, make things available? They're actually going to help people.
Well, if the FDA was an independent and uninformed, or like a uninfluenced entity, three-letter
Hmm.
agency, maybe we would have something that was a little bit more aligned to what you're talking about. But
Right.
fortunately, we have something that's heavily influenced by big pharma, and
Hmm.
and we see it, right? I,
Yeah.
I saw I saw Missouri. We have legislation in Missouri to get veterans access to psilocybin. Missouri is one of
Mhm.
the states in the country that has the highest veteran suicides per capita,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And
It's
then as we put this legislation on the floor, we start to see lobbyists come in with a big purse, about eight to
Mhm.
$10 billion, trying to spend money and saying, "Hey, we want synthetic psilocybin passed because then we can control it. Because
Right.
if it goes out of the ground,
They can't
anybody
control it.
can have access to it."
There's nothing to patent at that point. There's nothing to make money off of,
Right.
which is exactly why they're not telling us whole foods are good for us. Rather, they try to, pump us full of these soy burgers and, shit that they're creating.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
money in it.
GMO.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to one of our members today, this member was telling me about how their spouse is suffering PTSD. He was in the military as well. He was stationed at a base in Missouri somewhere where they're from, and he actually deployed because there was a lot of diversity issues going on there, and he still deals with that stuff. It took 4 years for them to approve his disability because he's a fully disabled veteran. PTSD is one of the things, but he's also suffering from some other issues as well. And it took them 4 years, and then he's been working the whole time, and they finally called him and said, "Hey, we're going to quit sending your checks, and you're going to have to back pay us for 6 months of
Yeah.
income." And he's like, "I'll quit tomorrow," and he had no idea that he had been approved. And
Yeah.
this is where there's such a break in the system. Um,
Yeah. Listen, like, you're not going to get a fight out of me when it comes to the VA, right? We know
mhm,
the system is broken, but I
right.
will I will also say this, like, there are some really great people in the VA that are trying to make a difference. And
Mhm,
one of those people is
sure.
the current secretary right now, Secretary Dennis McDonough. I
Mm,
had the privilege of working with him on the PACT Act and have had a lot of interactions with the guy. I think what he's doing within our community is top notch, right?
mhm,
Look at what he's been able to deliver in a short period of time of sitting in this position.
yeah.
He's identified the issues that are happening within our community. Like, one of the biggest things I commend him on, and in the VA itself, is okay. We know that there's a suicide problem, and access is an issue for a lot of people. Okay, cool.
Mhm,
Allow veterans to go to any hospital that they want to get the care that they need,
right.
The VA is going to cover the cost. Hey, that is a big win.
Hmm.
We need to be cheering from the
That's huge.
rooftops on that,
Yeah.
right? But it's not getting, you don't see it, being communicated in across national television, right?
Hmm.
Because it's not bleeding. It's not getting a story until the veteran commits suicide, and then they're like, oh, look at another veteran is dead, another
Well,
another
do
another
they even
tragedy
put
of the
that?
war.
Do they even put that on mainstream media? Because I feel like so much is, unless there
Oh yeah,
is a
of
race
course it is.
issue or something like that, they're usually not posting this kind of stuff on. I mean, we didn't hear about that train that tipped over in Ohio until weeks later, and it really
Sure.
never made mainstream media. So are they even
You
putting
get
stuff like
we
that?
get the same dog and pony show two times
Hmm.
a year, right? It's Memorial Day and Veterans Day. That's the only time that you really hear
Gosh,
any issues when it comes to the veteran. And and a lot of those conversations are talking about veteran suicide, veteran deaths.
and
So
isn't there something like a suicide a day from veterans,
Uh,
or
well,
maybe it's
listen,
more than
like
that?
here are the numbers that just recently came forward, right? So
Okay.
over the last 20 years, the 20-year war, there
Hmm.
have been 30,177 suicides. In the same time period, respective of combat operations, 7,057 combat deaths.
Hmm.
So we are killing ourselves at a factor of nearly 5 times that of the combat deaths of the longest war in American history. That
Unbelievable.
is a problem.
Yeah.
And frankly, like if we aren't if anybody that's listening to that is not getting
Hmm.
appalled and wanting to pick up the phone and call somebody, then I think you're dead inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the truth fact of the matter is if what we're actually seeing is those numbers are more like 60,
Hmm.
65,000 suicides a year or in that same time period,
Yeah.
right?
Because those are
Because if
just the
it's
reported ones.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've all been to high school. We could do basic math. What's
Hmm.
30,177 divided by 22 a day?
Hmm.
Right. It,
Well,
it certainly doesn't fall into the mathematical equation
right.
there.
Hmm.
So
Gosh.
there's some gross underreporting that's happening,
Hmm.
and it's a problem. We
Yeah.
need to address it.
Now
There
I know
was
you.
just a suicide yesterday, Navy SEAL Michael May, or Michael Day rather. All right. So
Yeah.
well, and there'll be one today, and there'll be one tomorrow, and there's going to be one on Sunday. What are we doing?
Are a lot of those suicides due to PTSD, or is it due to depression from, or is it kind of just all over the board as far
I
as
think
the?
it's a mixed bag, right?
Okay.
I think there's some moral injury. I think there's some chemical related brain trauma
Hmm.
that's involved in that. Um, I think a lot of the problem that we're seeing is a lot of the Vietnam veterans. Still Vietnam veterans are committing suicide in big numbers.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, it wasn't until like the early 2000s that we started talking about veteran suicide,
Right.
right? Right around the time period that the early Vietnam veterans started going into retirement.
Hmm.
And when you're retired and you're no longer focused and your mind is not focused on the things that, has kept it, focused for
Hmm.
20, 30, 50 years,
Yeah. Well, and you're not around your brotherhood as well
right?
that you've built. I mean, you're out
Yeah,
and
all that starts spinning, and then you start
hmm.
thinking about, oh man, remember that kid I shot in the rice paddy over there in Da Nang? Man, that kid was probably innocent, and I'm going to drink myself stupid over that, right?
Hmm.
The problem, as I see it, right, is we've got about 15 years before the GWAT community starts fitting that bracket of retirement, right?
Hmm.
And then you're going to start to see some real problems because you're already seeing it now. You're seeing a lot of GWAT veterans, most specifically the Iraq veterans, saying, I don't know what I did in Iraq. And I killed a lot of people in Iraq. And for what reason? And they're going to start to have to justify that in their own heads,
Yeah.
right? And then they're going to have to justify it in their souls and have to balance that out. And what happens then? Do we have the proper things for these and outlets for these individuals to go have these conversations, or
Yeah.
are they going to be all struggling with that internally and balancing it with some sort of alcohol or illicit drug,
Hmm.
and then that leads them down and spirals them into suicide?
Yeah. Are you open to discussing your position on that war? and on, like I know that there was I'd just be
Oh
curious.
yeah, I have my own peace of mind on that, right?
Hmm.
And I fought in 2004, 2005. I got into the country in September, and I left in April 2005.
Okay.
Um, the I had often thought of, and wondered, in a lot of things that we did, what we were doing there
Hmm.
until the day of the Iraqi national election. And today, that holds to me as one of the greatest experiences of my life. I put it in my top three, right?
Really.
Uh, and specifically for the reason of, I got to see, people vote in a country that had never had the ability to vote in a free democratic way before, right?
Yeah.
I got to see people stand in line in mass as insurgents and fighters were drive by shooting at them, hitting them with mortars, shooting rockets at them, trying to do everything that they could to deter them from voting, right?
Hmm.
The province that I was working in that time period was the Northern Babel province, and we weren't even going to be given any polling stations by General Mattis until our colonel won them over and said that we can provide the security and provide a means of safety for these individuals, right?
Yeah.
And we did. And what happened was our province saw almost a 78% voter turnout. We can't even get a 60% voter turnout here in the United States for the presidential elections. That was one of the most important and impactful moments of my life. And I remember it like it was yesterday. So to
Mhm.
me, like there was value to that war, right?
Yeah.
Now, was it what was sold to the American people? Absolutely not, right?
Hmm.
But in the same respects, there was materials there. Plenty of people, plenty of people saw it. My friend is
Yeah.
dying from his radiation exposure
Yeah.
over at a nuclear facility that was in Iraq. But at the end of the day, we weren't there to find weapons, but we did provide a country and
Yeah.
a group of people the ability to vote in their own democratic and national election. Now, what they did with that and what they do with their democracy, that's not for me to determine. It's not for me to judge.
Right.
All we did was provide the means and the ability and the opportunity. What they do with it next is on them.
Yeah. We gave them the freedom to have a democratic
Yeah,
democracy. Yeah.
we removed a piece of shit and his sons, if I could say that, I'm sorry.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, man, that's incredible. So I know you mentioned you went through some hard times after coming back.
mhm.
Was that experience something that really kind of sparked this fire and this passion? Because like I can tell you're passionate about this mission you guys are on.
You know, I think about that time period, right? I think about all the things that led me to some of the really shitty behaviors that I was involved in. You
Hmm.
know, I'm not very proud of it either, right? But it was a dark period of my life, and I was just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, I was trying to survive in a world that was foreign to me, um, and all I could think about was
Hmm.
death of myself. Right? I wanted to die because I didn't feel like I was worthy to be here any longer because of the
Wow.
loss of a lot of my friends.
Hmm.
That was something I struggled with for a very long time, and it ate at me and it destroyed me. And it took me hitting bottom to really figure out that you know there's a better way, right?
Hmm.
And now I've come to learn how to manage these situations by asking myself two questions. Am I being shot at and am I going to die? If I could say no to both of those things, I can change the outcome of my situation.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. That's a pretty simple way to think about it too.
Because there's you can control damn near everything that is
Mhm.
happening to you,
Right. Right.
right? Except being shot at
Yeah.
and the possibility of death.
Those two things you can't really control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least overseas you can't really control them. Yeah. So you said you hit rock bottom. Was there a particular situation that really, if you're open to sharing a particular situation that really, turned you around?
Oh, it turned me around.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple things like there's a point where I ended up almost 100 miles away from my home, not knowing how I got there.
Wow.
And uh, And that was, when I came to understand that the medicine that the VA that I was on, that I was being treated with,
Hmm.
was probably doing more damage to me than it was actually helping me.
Hmm.
Then there's a point of, there's my suicidal ideation, right? And thank God that I was a pussy and I couldn't figure it and I couldn't do it, right? So
Wow.
and I have, this story would have ended a long, long time ago.
Hmm.
But here, so I do draw, a lot from those time periods, from those experiences,
Hmm.
and those struggles, and and I put a lot of myself into um, the things that we're doing because we've built a platform that we can do it,
Hmm.
and it would be it would be wrong of me not to utilize that platform to improve the situation so that somebody made, if we can have one person that doesn't walk the path that put me on a terrible road, then
Hmm.
I think that we've achieved utilizing our platform. But over the years, what I've come to understand is that Grunt Style has an incredible voice,
Hmm.
and we have an ability to make impacts on individuals' lives and groups and big communities.
Yeah.
um, and that's, is that a financial, or is that a corporate responsibility? That's, I think, is arguable, but I think it's important to me.
Well, you got corporations fighting the other way, so I think it's important that you guys are fighting for something that's
Yeah,
actually good,
yeah.
and
And in fact,
trying to save lives.
what is important, right? And
Yeah.
that the veteran community, this is a community of individuals that once again raised their hand and said that I'll go fight a 20-year war. I'll go do that.
Hmm.
And we need to honor that. We need to respect that because, you know, how do we how are we going to get the next generation of Americans to say the same thing and
Hmm.
go off and fight for something that they believe in
Yeah.
if we are not honoring those that did that before them?
Well, I think that's a big issue of of recruitment numbers nowadays. Like one, kids aren't healthy enough going into it. They can't even pass the physicals. But two, we have a very selfish society now that has been built on capitalism, which is a great thing. But when the greed takes over is when it becomes very, very selfish, right? And that's an aspect of it. But then, it makes it tough for kids. Like, why would they want to go serve when they see veterans dying,
That's
from
it.
suicide? And like, who would want to serve a country that's not going to take care of them when, and they're not, and that's the crazy thing is that you guys aren't even asking for a lot. You're
Right.
asking for just help me, help
Right.
me not go crazy, like
Don't
that's,
don't let me kill myself.
yeah,
Right.
like I don't think
That's a
that's
crazy thing
much
to
to
say.
ask.
Hey, United States government, can you please just help me not kill myself?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
it's
it's that
fucking crazy.
simple.
But
Yeah.
and that was what I was saying during the PACTAC when we were sitting on
Hmm.
the steps of the Capitol for 6 days because we got thrown out of the Capitol building by a few senators that disagreed with what we were talking about when it came to veterans' health issues.
Hmm.
And and so we're sitting there for 6 days in rain, heat, snow, or all sorts of weather. And there's this great one where I'm sitting low to the ground under a tree with an umbrella during a massive thunderstorm, just
Oh
saying,
gosh.
all we're here is for a little bit of dignity and health care, right?
Hmm.
A week later, in that same spot, a man was struck dead by a lightning bolt during a similar thunderstorm. So it's like,
Wow.
man, that's kind of crazy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'd say so. Gosh. So you mentioned you've gone on an ayahuasca trip.
Mhm.
And what was it, guided?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I would never engage in this type of medicine work without,
Yeah.
controls and safe measures in
Hmm.
place.
What was that experience like?
Well, I'll tell you the very first time it was profound, and it still is profound. I practice this medicine, a lot. I think
Hmm.
it's called, something called weeding the garden. But the my first experience with it,
Hmm.
um, man, it shook me. It shook me to my core. I sat
Really?
down and had a long conversation with a dear friend of mine that died in 2012. He was a sergeant I served together with in Iraq. He died of burn pits exposure.
Wow.
Right. Um, and that was before any all the big work was going to be happening with the PACT Act. So that was
Hmm.
November 2000. yeah, 2021.
Hmm.
Pact that didn't get passed till August 2022, right? So I had this incredible conversation with Frank, and he's letting me know that all the behaviors and the things I beat myself up over when it comes to Iraq and the survivor's guilt that I carry, to let it
Hmm.
go, because there's nothing I can do about it. And it was part of my life. It was a chapter of this story, and we are way past that now, and it's time to let it go. And that was something I needed to hear, right? But only the medicine could tell me that, and only the in a way that I would receive it,
Hmm.
right? And
What
understand that.
was it, the medicine, or do you feel like it kind of connects you to a different realm in a sense?
Well,
Like
it certainly takes you into another ethereal place.
hmm.
And you get some disassociation, definitely.
Hmm.
uh Many people, including myself, have seen the source, right?
Hmm.
We've heard the voices, we've had shared experiences. um the power of this medicine is definitely spiritual.
Yeah,
I was born and raised Catholic, and I've had my disagreements with the Catholic religion,
sure.
and to the point where after Iraq, I'd become agnostic, and didn't
Mm,
even, and almost to the belief where I didn't even think that there was something bigger than us, right? Because it's all
really.
bullshit. But the medicine showed me differently, right? That there is something
Mm,
bigger and more spiritual out there. Now, what it is in terms of of a standard religion, it probably, I don't know. I'm not gonna. It's not for me to judge.
yeah.
But what I was able to do was I was able to meet myself, and I
Hmm.
was able to have a conversation with myself, and I was able to destroy my ego, which was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
That's pretty incredible. Do you? I know you said you believe in a greater power. Do you? And I would agree with you that religion is completely man-made, right? Spirituality is a different animal than religion. But would you say that you're still a practicing Catholic then, or I guess how do you relate to that?
I struggle. I struggle with it.
Hmm.
I'm not a practicing Catholic because I think the Catholic religion is garbage.
Fair
Personally,
enough.
I think
Yeah.
that the way that they push down other people,
Hmm.
and treat other classes of individuals,
Yeah.
that's some 19th century shit that
Yeah.
you don't need to be a part of. But at the same time, I'm extraordinarily spiritual,
Hmm.
so I struggle with it. Like,
Hmm.
you know, um, but the thing that you don't have to struggle with is just being a good human, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing the cardinal rule or the golden rule: do unto others,
Hmm.
do unto you.
My wife grew up Catholic, and I grew up just kind of all over the place. I'm a believer. I love Jesus, but I wouldn't even put myself in any denomination. And she grew up Catholic, and it took many years for her to break away from that.
Yeah,
And the one of the biggest factors for her was when we went to my daughter goes to the same school that my wife's entire family went to. My daughter and my son, we're actually pulling them out next year and homeschooling them.
yeah,
Uh, and that could be another conversation. But the uh, the main thing was when we went to my daughter had first communion, we were kind of, you know, not sure if we wanted to let her go through with it, but we didn't want her to feel excluded from her
yeah,
friends. So we said, go ahead. We walked up with her, and they would not let us take communion with our daughter. We are believers. We love the Lord. But they wouldn't let us take communion with her because I was not Catholic. We were not married in a Catholic church. We were married under God, but we
yeah,
weren't married in a Catholic church.
yeah,
And so they therefore did not acknowledge our marriage. And
yeah,
that was it for her. And that's religion, right? That's these man-made rules, you know.
yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. And
rabbit hole.
and again, like, I'm not my personal beliefs are my personal beliefs.
Mhm.
People, I don't want people to, get upset with my personal beliefs, right?
Sure.
That was, yeah.
Just the way you believe.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
saying Catholicism is garbage. That's that's pretty forward facing, and I get
Sure.
that, but but that's my personal belief, right?
Mhm.
And I'm allowed to have my personal beliefs,
We
and I
all
can
are.
have my
Mhm.
personal beliefs. But at the same time, I'm not judging others. That
Mhm.
that's not the core of me,
Yeah.
right?
We all have different experiences in life
Yeah,
that yeah.
exactly. Like, if
Yeah.
you're a Catholic and you're a devout Catholic, hey, rock on, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like,
If
I'm
it's
not
working for you,
gonna
right?
denigrate you.
Mhm.
Right? If you want to have a conversation and challenge, on intellectualism,
Mhm.
of religion and spirituality, let's have that conversation.
Right.
engage in that. So
Mhm.
that's where I'm at. Where
Yeah.
so it is a struggle, and
Mhm.
then there's that small little voice in the back of my head saying, "Oh, you're going to hell, Tim. You're violating all the Catholic things that your communion and all these things."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So how long we've talked a lot about the mission here and which I love, and I think that it just goes to show like you and you represent your company as well. But for people that don't know about Grunt Style, like I thought it was super cool. I knew you guys were big, but I went out to we were actually in Missouri this last weekend, took kids for a little spring break jaunt
Yeah,
to the that safari zoo out there, and that was super cool. But we went to the original Bass Pro Shop that was out there, and
sure.
you guys have a whole display there. And I was like, "Holy cow! I knew you guys were big, but I thought it was mainly online, and it was really cool to see that there." And I was like, "Oh, I get to talk to Tim this week."
Yeah.
So tell us, I guess, how long has Grunt Style been around for now?
Yeah, sure. So the company was founded in 2009 by
Okay.
a former drill sergeant in the Army, with the idea of taking the values that are imprinted upon us as young men and women,
Hmm.
and taking that out into the civilian world. And what was the best way of doing that? T-shirts, right? So he started the idea of grunt style out of the back of the car, and I think it was like $1,800 was the barrier of entry at that time. A clam press and a couple of pieces of heat transfer paper and cotton T-shirts, right? And
Hmm.
he'd sit there and make these things in the basement of his house and go sling them around.
That's awesome.
From there, it's kind of just in 2013 is when I came on.
Okay.
We've just grown the business from there. Now we are a omni-channel business.
Hmm.
We have our product in over 3,000 wholesale doors across the United States between,
Awesome.
Academy Sports, Bass Pro,
Hmm.
Shields, a lot of Bucky's, of all places. I never thought we'd be in Bucky's, but we kick ass in Bucky's because
That's
Bucky's,
awesome.
great consumers and
Yeah.
that align with our ideals.
Hmm.
So we do really great there. We have 16 retail brick and mortar positions across the United States, which we're really proud about. Our
Really, you guys have your own retail stores now?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's
All
awesome.
owned. Yeah, we do those all ourselves. We have an incredible team. Helen Brunner has ran that. Incredibly, what was really fun about watching last year is we opened, I think it was something to the tune of like 13 stores in one year.
Wow. Right
That's
after COVID too.
right. That was unheard of. Like, you
That's
name another
insane.
business that was that aggressive.
Yeah.
So, we have a really great team there. We have a club business
Okay.
subscription model that has over 50,000 members in it. And, we have two facilities, or we operate in three facilities in two states,
Mhm.
Illinois and Texas. Two-thirds of the business operates out of Illinois with our production and our fulfillment operations up there.
Okay.
And then we have the headquarters down in San Antonio. So we have around 400. We flux, but due to season.
Mhm.
So we'll float up to five, maybe five and a quarter, depending on volume. So we're a pretty big business.
Yeah.
That it was all started off of a Google question, like, what is business? So it's pretty fun. Right? Myself and the founder, we didn't know shit about anything. We
Yeah.
were just, a couple guys that were willing to, take it and run with it, and
Mhm.
climb over every obstacle that we can to get to the objective.
Yeah. So when you came on, how big was the company at that point?
Oh man, there was like, I think I was the fifth employee,
Okay. And
and
then oh, I was just gonna say, how much business were you guys doing at that point?
man, I don't think we broke a million at that point.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
you guys are north of what?
We're about $150 million brand.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's insane. And just in, I mean, gosh, if you came on in 20, you said 2013, right?
2013. Yeah,
So since then,
I've
wow,
managed.
that's
I've
incredible.
managed over $750 million in the time I've been with Grunt Style.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, like, if you would have came up to 26, 27-year-old Tim Jensen, who is
Mhm.
an apprentice in the city of Chicago as a union carpenter, saying, "Hey, in 15 years, you're going to be managing nearly $1 billion in revenue." Like, what?
Yeah. Well, I think, it sounds like from your service and your past, you've kind of earned it. It sounds like this has been a great opportunity and a great thing for you, as well as what you guys have done with it, which I think is absolutely incredible, and
Yeah.
the platform it's created for you as well.
I'll tell you this, for all your listeners too, like,
Hmm.
I think this story, the story of Tim Jensen, really, is is just an example that, I'm nobody. Like, I was a fucking union carpenter that quit his job to go get a college degree, and then couldn't figure it out from there, and took a job
Hmm.
folding t-shirts. And now, as we built this incredible thing called Grunt
Yeah.
Style. The story there is like, you can do anything you want, right?
Hmm.
It's just the willingness of, what are you willing to put at to what are you willing to give up
Yeah.
to take it, right? Um,
Hmm.
for me, you know, I've lived my life with one. I lived my life with this one idea. You get one chance on this mud ball that is hurling through the cosmos, circling a burning fucking thing of gas. You have one chance. What are you going to
Yeah.
do with it? Are you going to sit
Hmm.
around and woe is me and shove your face full of Fritos and get fat and nasty and do nothing and die a miserable life? Or are you going to go out
Oh
there and try to
man.
make a difference? I choose to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, so how can people get involved with the Grunt Style Foundation?
Oh man, there's several ways. There's several ways, my friend. So we do a lot of different things. This year, with the our mission of our food insecurities,
Hmm.
we want to deliver, and we have secured, was 124 tons of food and commodities that will deliver to, 2,800 families. Right,
$124 tons.
that's what we signed up for, right?
Wow.
That's $1.5 million worth of food and commodities, with
Okay.
the sheer idea, of taking one military family and providing them all the things they need for a month, which
Hmm.
essentially comes to about $500. Now, you take a 23-year-old NCO that has a wife and two children.
Hmm.
You tell me what $500 would do for that family.
Big things. Pay for
Be
the
big
food for the
thing.
month.
Pay for food, could knock down a couple bills, free up some cash on a rolling basis.
Hmm.
Maybe that individual could take their wife or their husband out for a nice weekend somewhere,
Hmm.
and escape, the things that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You could do anything with $500, and that's what we're trying to provide, is the ability for these families to at least get ahead, a
Hmm.
little bit ahead, and have some dignity, right? There's
Yeah.
so many people that are crying when you're giving these. It's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but here we are, and we're doing this. But you can get involved there.
Hmm.
You go to gruntstylefoundation.org, see all the business and all the deployments that we're doing, and you can show up. You can be involved. You can hand out food to these active duty families, and it's an incredibly fulfilling thing to do that as well.
Hmm.
And spend some time, with those young men and women that have raised their hand to go out and fight for your
Serve.
freedom,
Yeah.
right? It's the least you can do. So you can get involved there, or you can go to gruntstylefoundation.org or the gruntstyle.com websites, make a monetary donation if you want. That's just as good as spending your time.
Hmm.
So we will take all of that. But it's important. Get involved, right? We
Yeah.
have significant needs within the veteran community right now, between all the problems that are, coming from the 20-year war, on our mental health and wellness,
Hmm.
to food insecurities of active duty families not being able to provide sustenance for their families, to the transitioning active duty member to the veteran community. Making sure that we're capturing them and we're providing them the opportunity to be successful within the first 90 days, so they don't end up homeless. There are plenty of ways to get involved, and you don't have to get involved with the Grunt Style Foundation. You can find other organizations if you find them to be better.
Hmm.
Just get involved.
Yeah. Yeah. That's big. What would you tell? I've got two questions for you here, and they're kind of on opposite ends. But what would you tell somebody looking to enlist now, or considering serving their country as a career? What would you tell that person?
Well, this is a great question. My son just recently asked me this question, and he's now on the USS Nimitz in the United States Navy as a gunner's mate, which I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah.
But he first asked me a little over a year ago, He's like, Dad, I think I want to join the Marine Corps. He's coming up to that time in high
Mm-hmm.
school. We had to make a
Yeah.
decision on what he was going to do. And he's like, I
Yeah.
want to be a Marine, Dad. And I asked him, I was like, Dad, okay, are you prepared to shoot another man in the face?
Mm-hmm.
No. I was like, well, you're not ready to be a Marine. Think of something else. And he came back and he's like, I think I want to join the Navy. I'm like, okay, cool, right? So, you know, and the reason why I share that story is because I find it to be extraordinary because this young man has lived with his father his entire existence, the last 18
Mm-hmm.
years of his life, watching his father struggle from all the things that combat has done to him,
Yeah.
and he's still willing to raise his hand and go fight for this country.
That's pretty incredible.
That speaks to the values of the military, and it speaks
Mm-hmm.
to the values of this country. It speaks to this generation that's I believe still has this enduring need to serve. And I have it on the wall behind me, right? The things that we should be asking ourselves all the time, like JFK said, is ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we should be living our lives.
I think what's cool to point out there too, Tim, is the fact that your son respects you enough and has seen you serve, even though he's seen you go through hardship because of that service, that he's
Yeah,
still willing to raise his hand. I think
yeah.
that's pretty incredible. That's a cool legacy to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And we come from, I have a big family. I've got something like 32 cousins, right? I'm a South Side Chicago Irish, Irish German family, right? So we're big,
Yeah.
but of all of them, it's my family that has, really walked the military route.
Mm-hmm.
So I have three brothers, all Marines, everybody younger than me. And then my sister, she was in the Navy, and she went to combat. So, my entire family, my immediate brothers and sisters are all combat, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did our time. We went and fought in the desert against
Yeah.
the enemies of our time. So, I'm extraordinarily proud of that. And to see that my son is willing to continue to carrying that torch for
Mm-hmm.
the Jensen family, and and make those contributions to this country. That that
Mm-hmm.
that speaks to um, what we value.
Yeah. Now on the flip side of that, you have a young guy getting out of the service, out of the Marines, out of the Navy. What would you tell him?
Well, I think that's a tougher conversation. I would tell him it's going to be hard. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to tell him that don't you're entitled to nothing. I would tell him that or her that if you don't, nobody's coming to help, and you got to do it yourself. Pull your straps up and get to work.
Mm-hmm. Keep that mind busy.
Yep,
That's good.
absolutely.
So I ask this to everybody on the podcast as well. What legacy do you want to leave?
Oh man, that's a good question. um, I would say the legacy that I want people to remember is that we all have a voice. We can manifest change
Mm-hmm.
however we want to. I was just I I went from having zero voice to being on the hill of the Capitol of the United States trying to pass a piece of legislation that in all respects should never have been passed. And I was able to work with extraordinary people to get that done. And we've left a little bit of a legacy there for the future war fighters that haven't even fought the next war. They'll
Mm-hmm.
be protected by, the shit they're going to be exposed to by their own very government. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess the legacy that I want to leave behind is one that of service, right? That, your service doesn't end when you take your uniform off. Service is in your heart, and it's what you're willing to um, put your name on and put your time against.
Yeah.
And for the idea of leaving it better than what you found it, and that's been my mantra the entire time, of my adult life, is leave it better than you found it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, Tim, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're busy. You got a big company you're running.
Yeah, well, it's like working in the salt mine, my friend. Every day it gets a little deeper and it gets a little darker.
Exactly. Love it. Love it. Well, it's been good having you on. Love to have you on again here in the future. And hopefully we can get this out to our listeners and our community, and guys, get involved with this. As Tim said, just get involved. It doesn't have to be Grunt Style Foundation, although it sounds like a great one to be a part of. But just get involved. So,
Yeah,
well,
that's it.
Tim, appreciate you being on. Been a nice conversation. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, my friend.
All right.
Thank you as well, and see you soon.
See you soon.